Support for Donnybrook is provided in part by Design Air Heating and Cooling.
Seems fair to me. Well, if you don't know what fair is, you can't make it. Unacceptable by any reason.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
It sure is, and we thank you so very much. Well, thanks for joining us for this edition of Donnybrook, the last one before the jolly old elf himself comes down the chimney behind me. We'll find out what he puts in those stockings this year. Might be coal. We'll find out. Hey, let's meet the panelists before we discuss this week's issues, starting with Wendy Wiese, the media veteran. Joe Holleman, sitting in for the vacationing Bill McClellan. Joe, of course, is with the Post-Dispatch. Sarah Fenske from St. Louis Magazine. And from the St. Louis American, Alvin Reid. Well, we begin this week's episode with a sad note. We lost one of the greats. Photographer Bill Greenblatt passed away. Services were held yesterday for him. He was, in one word, Alvin Reid, ubiquitous. He worked for UPI. I don't think there was an event in St. Louis that he missed.
And how could one person cover so much and then be at every Cardinal game? And I'll tell you, I met Bill when the Hard Rock Cafe opened, when it was downtown before it moved. And there was this red carpet deal, and I was new to St. Louis, and he was there taking pictures of everybody, and he introduced himself. I would later meet him at the American because he shot so many photos for us as well. He was everywhere. He did everything. And I just want to mention that he took great love in the fact that he was a member of Marching Mizzou and was still active with it, and they just put him in like Marching Mizzou Hall of Fame too. So just an outstanding character and just an internationally acclaimed photographer.
And having said that, did you ever see him having a bad day?
No.
I never saw the man having a bad day. Whether he was putting 1,000 miles on his car, I often wonder, I think, if he slept in his car because he could, unless he could bilocate, he could not cover all of that territory, but he was always happy and he always sought out the new kid to make them feel comfortable. It is a ginormous loss for everybody in the media and the region.
I met Bill at a crime scene or a fire scene back when I was the cop reporter, the night cop reporter for the Post-Dispatch. And as you said, he was welcoming when I was a very first new reporter and always stayed that way. And he was always there. So my condolences to his family.
And I know if you don't recognize the name Bill Greenblatt, you certainly saw his work on the KMWX website, 9PBS website, and throughout. So our thoughts and prayers with the Greenblatt family at this time. Well, who do we start with this week? I guess it's you, Joe. You've been covering the goings-on as St. Louis County is eventually going to get a new prosecuting attorney. We know that Melissa Price Smith was nominated by the governor, and Court Van Ostren has been nominated by the county executive. And I guess the courts will decide who really gets to choose the new prosecuting attorney. But in interviews this week with the St. Louis County Council, I think that Melissa Price Smith, 17-year veteran of the prosecuting attorney's office, really gave us a bombshell when she said that she expressed her interest in the job with County Executive Sam Page. Shortly thereafter, around October or so, a supporter of the county executive called her not once but twice and said, we need some dirt, some negative reports about Mike Archer, who's running against Ernie Trachis. Archer, a political opponent of the county executive. Right. That was a bombshell, don't you think?
It certainly surprised everybody in the audience that came out. It injected into what the council was trying to make look like a let's meet the candidates sort of informational meeting, turned it into a look at inside politics as to how this all came about. And so when Ms. Smith said that, it took everybody aback, but it's part of the moves that are going on. And this whole process of picking a successor to Wesley Bell has become far more complicated than it had to be at a variety of levels. As to the best of my knowledge, at this moment, a judge still hasn't decided on whose power it is to appoint. So all these other arguments are moot if the courts say it's Parsons. Then there is nothing else. If they say it's Page's, then you have the county council has also entered saying, we're a party to this. Page has to get the approval of the county council. So even if the one question gets settled, then we have another court fight over does the county council have a say-so? And they voted 5-0 against Van Ostren after that meeting, a recommendation to turn down him as the thing. So what we have is all kinds of political infighting that has slowed things down. And if I can't imagine it's possible, it seems to have created the rift between the county administration and the county council is as wide as it's ever been.
Okay, let's keep moving.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, Charlie, I think you're right that was a bombshell. I mean, it caught my eye to hear her say that Page's people are calling her, asking her to dig for dirt. Like, what kind of terrible test to put candidates through? But it put a sour taste in my mouth that after she made this bombshell accusation, they asked a follow-up question. Well, who was this? She said, I don't remember. This is somebody that she talked to twice. She doesn't remember. That leaves kind of a bad taste in my mouth. That feels like a pretty big allegation to make without being able to recall who it was. I think it puts County Executive Page in a position, how do you prove a negative? No one I know has ever called this woman ever. That feels a little off to me.
And it is kind of an interesting twist because if you're just following sort of the line of questioning and the compare and contrast between Mr. Van Ostren and Melissa Price Smith, it was a slam dunk. She won on every question in terms of first chair, second chair, the amount of experience you have in a courtroom. So if this does endanger that particular appointment, depending on the court's decision, then that's a lesson to be learned.
Yes, and that concerns me a lot because I don't know the sworn in, but you said this during the council meeting. All right, everybody knows that. You probably know, but you're just doing that. I, as a county resident, and I know you all are city folk, live there, but as a county resident, I rank St. Louis County as the most dysfunctional governing body in the state of Missouri right now, and that counts the legislature because it's so unnecessary. This is just silliness. And love him, hate him on Sam Page. What, Sam Page is this power broker that people have to either cater to or try to destroy? It's just, I don't get it. I just don't get it. The county could run very smoothly if everybody just got out of their way. And they refuse to do so. And once again, and I will say this about Melissa Smith, the only problem I have with her is she should not be appointed by the governor. She may be more qualified, but to me, she's not even a candidate because I don't think the governor has the right to do that. A judge will decide that, but I just don't think she should even be in the running to be considered because Sam Page didn't appoint her.
But we all remember when the county council was, honestly, it was generating news, but it was just a yawner because there was nothing ever really breaking or going on. Yeah. But I think, and I put a lot at his feet. I think he is in charge of the county council. He presides.
Who's that?
Sam Page.
Well, not really.
He presides.
I think he's lost all credibility.
That's what I mean.
One more slimy thing. When he took away Tim Fitch's, a member of the county council's pension, because he didn't like him. Fitch won in court, of course, when he illegally had a vote to put, I forget who, as the county council chair. The courts ruled against that as well. When he called Gretchen Banger, who was running for office, hey, I'll give you a job in the county. The taxpayers will pay for it if you drop out of the race. I don't know if this latest allegation is accurate, but they're starting to add up.
Well, and I think when you bring up Banger, it gives a good point when it came to Ms. Smith's contention that she had been called by a Page supporter. Gretchen Banger was first called by a Page supporter and let it be known to Ms. Banger that there might be a job available for her, so why don't you give Sam a call? So the notion of a political power broker, executive, whatever, they would use a intermediary to make such an offer, I don't think should surprise anybody.
But we're past the point of them adding up. I think they've been adding up for a while.
Well, I think you're probably right. Hey, Sarah, I want to ask you, let's go out, speaking of dysfunction, now let's go to the Francis Howell School District, where the state auditor recently audited the construction of Francis Howell North High School. Turns out it wasn't on time and under budget. It was 2 times over budget. It was estimated to be $86 million. It came in at around $160 million. And none of this was being communicated to the public or even to members of the Board of Education. What made things very squirrely is that the school district insisted that an employee of the district become an employee of the project manager. And as it turns out, by requiring that, they had to reject superior construction firms, and instead they went with the firm which was run by the brother of the school district employee. It seemed very bad management.
Yeah, it's impossible to argue with that. I mean, the auditor said this is his lowest possible rating here, and it looks like they set up this deal in order to favor somebody with connections. That's horrible. You know, I'm reading this and I'm saying, wow, we have spent so much time and energy just weeping and gnashing our teeth over several $1 million in spending at the St. Louis Public Schools. And yes, the problems there are very bad and very big, but the amount of money involved in the mismanagement of this one dwarfs that. We're talking tens of millions of dollars here. That's a ton of money, and it's ugly.
I would agree. And once again, what is the school board talking about while all this is going on? Are they talking about taking books off shelves and, oh, we can't have this and, oh, blah, blah, blah? Like, you're supposed to be, fiduciary responsibility is supposed to be at the top of the list. And the fact that people's like family members are involved and things like this, it's just kind of like, really?
Well, yeah, is nepotism the oldest aspect of politics? I mean, the first 2 politicians agreed to hire each other's nephews, I think, you know. So, I mean, you know, is it shocking? It's like, you know, you can get away with one, but not both. Either bring it in under budget, and then it's okay that you got your nephew a job. Or you came in over budget, but you didn't get a favor for your nephew. But you can't do both, okay?
Well, you know, also the school district was accused by the auditor of inflating attendance figures, which is a big deal because state reimbursement goes up with attendance. So that's a real problem in my view. I don't know if it's worse than St. Louis Public Schools. Maybe we'll have that debate later.
No.
But Alvin, I want to ask you about a measure that I guess is going to be in front of the General Assembly come January, and that is to allow gun suppressors in the state of Missouri, a silencer like the one that was used to assassinate the CEO of United Healthcare. It's a device put on a firearm that makes it less loud. And it also means that you can shoot and kill somebody and fewer people will hear it. What do you think of this?
Well, I think it's a terrible idea. I think there's some things that you say, like, what do you need a silencer for? To murder somebody, quite frankly. I mean, what, you know, and the police do have gunshot detector equipment that they can respond to. So this is just a bad idea. And once again, I think it's one of those deals where you're taking something away where the bad part of it would be in metro areas. And I don't know if people in rural Missouri are using silencers or not, but the legislature does not care what goes on in the city of St. Louis as far as people being murdered. They can say it's about not having gun control and all that, but the basis of the matter is we could care less about what happens in North St. Louis or South Kansas City. We don't care. So yeah, right. Let's outlaw silencers. I mean, or in-law silencers.
If there are gunshots, and you know, I'm with people I love, I want to know about it. I want to be able to hear it. And the argument that this is about the hunters and cutting down, and it was just such a negligible amount of decibels, you know, that you were losing with a silencer. I don't know.
I think it falls in with a whole lot of gun legislation, in that it really doesn't matter much one way or the other. I just don't believe that there's a bunch of wannabe hit people out there going, oh, thank God, now I can have a suppressor so I can go assassinate people. Or that people, when we do laws against guns, that the truly outlaw element is going, oh, thank God, I can now own a gun without a permit.
They don't care about the laws.
They don't care about that, and if they want a suppressor, they're going to get a suppressor. You know, I mean, so do I think that our legislature should be spending more than 10 minutes on this? No. You know, I mean, I could have been happy without this bill coming up because I don't need a suppressor. Okay,
You just murder folk.
Yeah, I want my gun. I want my guns to make a lot of noise. I want them to make a lot of noise. But I think it's one of these much ado about nothing, really.
I would tend to agree, except it's just like the foundation of the matter is, let them shoot each other.
I was surprised to see, though, they said, this is in multiple states. They allow you to have these silencers, and we don't allow them in Missouri. I said, I didn't know we had any gun laws here. I thought that was what we were most proud of. So
there are more.
I got to give Missouri some credit.
There's more gun laws on the books
Apparently.
now than there was 50 years ago across the United States, and homicide rates keep going up.
And wasn't
So,
a part of, wasn't a part
Actually, they're
of
going
this-
down.
In a yearly basis, if you look where they were at in 1950 or 60, compare them to now, they're way high.
But wasn't a
local
part
rate
of
costs
this
a dime.
legislation to make sure that Missouri made or that was part of the legislation that we're gonna, we're all about the guns and we want everybody to know it.
Well, if you're going to get your suppressor, shouldn't you shop
I
locally?
suppose.
Aren't we all about shopping
You're right.
locally?
I don't want to order one.
I'm thinking like a mental note, start suppressor business. Read suppressors.
I just think some friends of mine on the right who are firearm protectors, they believe in the Second Amendment and all other issues. They just want as few restrictions as possible on a firearm, even if it doesn't really make too much sense. I just think that if somebody shoots someone in downtown St. Louis and has a suppressor, it's going to be harder to hear and find that person. So
Right.
the
or
murder
seek
could go
shelter.
undetected. Yeah.
Or seek shelter.
But now, back to you. Actually, let's take a look at just a moment, Wendy, when Sarah said that the spending was worse in St. Charles County than it was in the St. Louis Public Schools, Francis Howell School District. Sure. We know from your reporting and others that $1.6 million was spent on 23 credit cards by employees of the St. Louis Public Schools on places like
Bath and Body.
Bath and Body, 801 Chop House. The superintendent got not only a car, but a car allowance.
And then was it the airline ticket upgrades?
Yes,
or,
they did like 16 flights above $500, trips to Japan, charcuterie boards, Bubba Gumps, and I don't know where else, Gaylord National. $1.6 million, $23,000 was actually spent on the kids, according to the reporting. Now, an auditor has been hired by the St. Louis Public Schools. The last name is Hubbard. The Hubbards have been in the news recently because they're politically connected, and they got some of that questionable federal money for North St. Louis. Do you think that's a little tone deaf for the schools, however wonderful this woman is, to hire someone with the last name Hubbard to be watching the hen house?
It sets off alarm bells, especially in light of proximity. I mean, in terms of we've just been talking. I mean, everybody has been talking. You're covering about the corruption when it comes to this money being distributed. And the Hubbards are being mentioned prominently. That does not reflect poorly on this person, but that tone deafness, I think, continues to erode faith in government as it is.
And I agree, because when they were going to hire an auditor, I am one that said, like, I don't want to besmirch this woman's character. And I understand that people, like, one side of the family might be this and the other,
right.
all that.
Right.
However, if I'm in that meeting, I said, like, let's go in a different direction, because we're under fire as it is right now. And even if there are suppressors involved, we gotta, like, not do this right now.
See, that bothers me. I mean, this woman, from all accounts, she worked at Wells Fargo in like their internal compliance, or, the same sort of job. Like, she seems qualified for this. If our only problem is that she has some relatives, and the Post-Dispatch reporting, it's been very good, but it didn't say specifically what the connection is, just that she's sort of part of this same clan. If that's the only reason that we think she should have been ruled out, that it looks bad to us, how provincial is that? It seems like half the people in St. Louis are related to the other half of the people. You can't be ruling out people
Sarah,
based on their last name.
I disagree, because there is, there is such a thing as looks like impropriety, or just
The appearance of impropriety.
Just based on someone's last name.
No,
Yes,
well,
it-
in a way, yes.
I don't
but
like that.
I don't like it either. But
it
it's
is
one of those.
provincial
Yeah,
because we are
It's just one of those.
provincial.
If I'm in the room, like
Yeah, I mean, you'd say,
Hamilton.
okay, should
If
we go?
I'm in the room,
Yeah, in
I'm
the room
saying
where
like,
it
if I'm
happens-
in the room, I'm saying like, hey, look, y'all. No.
Yeah, let's
yeah.
go with Reuben Brown. Let's go with Deloitte. Let's go with Arthur
You're
Anderson.
going to discriminate against an otherwise qualified candidate.
No.
Because their
We're
last
just-
name
we're
gives
sim-
you
we're not-
pause.
we're
No,
not
we're
short of
simply-
accountants.
No, we're simply saying
Good
that
accountants.
there is a at present there is a chip missing in terms of that understanding of perception. And it does, as we've said 1,000 times, just in the last 5 minutes, does not reflect poorly on the candidate. It's just, Hubbard, and it's connecting the dots can be problematic for the
But
city.
Blythe
of St. Louis.
Bernhardt, who has done terrific work for the Post-Dispatch, she did not connect any dots on this particular hire beyond the last name. If she was like, she is married to so-and-so who has taken this money when they
Okay.
shouldn't have taken it, I'd feel differently.
I think the situation boils down to, and again, it's unfortunate, and I put all the blame on the school board.
All
Because
of it.
what you are trying to do is raise people's faith and trust in the school board. It does no good then for that very school board to go out and pick someone who will instigate this sort of discussion. Just like it did no good for Tony Cousins to say she's running for re-election. And I understand the voters will get to decide. But if you're trying to raise the level of trust in the school board, then the school board has to look at all those little things and go, we shouldn't be
Well,
doing
I'll
this.
say that Tony Cousin, she's one of the 3 who went to 801 Chop House. Now, 801 Chop House is possibly the most expensive restaurant in Missouri.
Multiple times.
It really, to be using taxpayer funds there and then to wipe it in our faces by running for re-election.
I'm sorry, for the school board to now say, hey, we got it. We got it. We know where we messed up. We've got it. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
You've got to go.
And to expect people, not putting it all on her, but to expect people to do the right thing when they're in situations like that, that's flown right out the window. I mean, that's just like, that's folly to even think like, boy, if the decent thing to do would just be to step down. They ain't gonna step down. They'll probably run for re-election and sue if they lose.
Well, yeah, to expect people to walk by a running car without stealing it is apparently too much to ask. So, I mean, but I think it all has to do with appearance, and the school board, once again, blew it.
Okay, 3 minutes to go. And because it is the holiday season, in the spirit of the holiday, why don't we say something nice for a change on Donnybrook? That is, to salute something that's positive. And I think I'll kick it off by saying that Al's Restaurant, the 1st of January, will celebrate 100 years in downtown St. Louis. We have a lot of great steak restaurants, Wright's Tavern and Citizen Cane's and Andrea's and O'Fallon and beyond. But how about that, 100 years? So hats off to everyone at Al's Restaurant.
I had my first date with my husband at Al's Restaurant, so
Excellent.
that it has a special place for me.
Hey,
Yes.
good spender.
That is romantic.
So I want to give a shout out to Welcome Neighbor STL. This is a group here in St. Louis. They have just been doing such good work. Started as this grassroots organization trying to help refugees who were kind of lost in St. Louis, and they have grown into such a juggernaut that they have now gotten this designation where they're allowed to resettle refugees, working directly with the federal government. It's a big step forward for a truly grassroots group that has so much community support.
And I think, this is the season where we're all very mindful of our blessings, and we have to think about the people who are struggling. And in that regard, I think I can't say enough about all of the food pantries, St. Nicholas, St. Vincent de Paul. So if we could continue to support those folks and the work that they do, I think that'd be great.
I'd like to wish a Merry Christmas to the street and road crews of the St. Louis Water Department and Street Department.
Oh, yeah.
Amen.
Because, when things need to happen and it's 1 o'clock in the morning and it's 35 degrees and someone's digging a hole to fix a broken water main, it's shame on administrators that the water main broke. But those guys and gals jumped down in that hole, and recently in my neighborhood, Guy came to the door and he says, we need to shut your water off. It's 9 in the morning. He says, we're not going to shut it off to 11. Get every water you need, take your showers. He goes, it should be about 6 or 7 hours. They were done in 7.5 hours.
Fantastic.
Wow.
So bless you guys.
Horizons,
30 seconds.
Horizons Kirkwood, formerly Sprague, works with kids in the Kirkwood area, primarily black kids. Started about the time I was getting out of high school. It has now became a tutoring program. They swim. They do all kinds of things during the summer. It's been around a long time. It's going strong, and it is really just a fantastic part of the Kirkwood scene.
Fantastic. And we have more good news, and that is that our director and producer Veronica Moheski got engaged on Saturday to Andrew Dove, and as it turns out, they ran a marathon the next day. What? So, congratulations, best wishes to Veronica and Andrew. I think 9PBS has plans to broadcast live from the honeymoon, if I'm not mistaken. We'll find out. Let's go to the old mailbag. Les Sturman of the Citizens for a Greater Downtown St. Louis wrote, I think your discussion of car thefts missed the mark. The issue is not thieves stealing cars left running or with keys inside, but with thieves smashing windows of locked cars and stealing contents. We believe there have been upwards of 200 vehicles whose windows have been smashed by these criminals since November. Thank you, Les. We also heard from Paul Bowler of St. Louis, who wrote, why should I have to lock my doors, house or car? If a society respected the rule of law, we wouldn't have to lock our doors. Don't blame the people who've been robbed. Douglas Beck wrote, why do you have a fake tree instead of a natural one? Support your local businesses. I'm sure Ted Drews can hook you up. You can write us care of 9PBS, St. Louis, Missouri, 63108. Emails at donnybrook@9pbs.org. And on social media, use hashtag DonnybrookSTL. Call the 9 line if you have a moment and listen to us on your favorite podcast source. Make sure you do that. And, of course, 2025, big mayoral election in the city of St. Louis. We're going to talk about the mayor on Last Call. You can find that on the 9PBS YouTube channel. And speaking of those mayoral elections, we're looking for your comments and your questions for the mayoral candidates. It's a partnership between St. Louis Magazine and 9PBS. So if you have a question for candidates running for mayor of St. Louis, go to 9pbs.org/elections. That concludes this program. Thank you very much for joining us. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and see you next week.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.